Hey guys, welcome back to Miner's 4x4 Garage and Adventure. I had my buddy Kyle out to the house yesterday. And we were scrambling on this, so I didn't even film it. But we got a few things left to do. On the Ranger's wiring, I got like 5-6 wires, something like that. I think I need to hook up. I need to terminate them and then, or whatever that's called, whatever. I'm gonna spray some anti-corrosion juice on the. I ordered a universal harness. Not entirely sure why. I don't know what my thought process was there. I think a lot of it was to just simplify the system instead of having, like the factory stuff running from here to there and from there to here, and we just run it from there to here and be done. Which we probably could have done with a factory harness, but these American auto wire harnesses are pretty sweet. But anyway, we ended up with a extra mega fuse, 275 amp fuses under the hood, so that's kind of cool. I like that. So anyway, it occurs to me as I'm standing here that I left the piece of paper that has what needs to go where in the hobby room. So I'm going to pause you real quick, go grab that, and then start getting this put together. All right, so between these terminals and the shrink tubing, and I don't usually use a torch. Normally I just use a lighter. Between all that stuff, I think we have got enough to do what we need to do. So to start with, I need to extend the 2 wires coming off of my ignition box, which I believe I can just use. You got butt connectors? Where are they at? What are they in here and I just don't see them? I got a whole bunch of red terminals. Okay, evidently I don't have any. I have one. I've got, oh, nope, there's another one. They just got knocked around to where I can't see them. So I think those will be an appropriate size for that. Go over here and grab the wire strippers. Ooh, these are the ones I have to help along. I'm going to pause you one more time and go grab my new ones. All right, hopefully that's the last time I have to pause you. But inevitably I've forgotten something. All right, I'm going to set this over here for now, just so I don't lose it. So there's that. There's my 2 terminals. We're going to cut us some shrink tubing. How long does that need to be? I think about that's probably good enough. We'll cut off 2 of those. And I don't know if you're going to be able to see what I'm doing from that vantage point. I aimed the camera so it was mostly pointed over here, which is the majority of where I'm going to be working. But we will see. Okay. So there's that, there's that. So we're going to go on ahead and strip. Okay, these are different. These don't have the hole where you like select your wire gauge. It just kind of clamps down to what it needs to be, and honestly I like them a little bit better. All right, where is an end? Okay, so there's my white wire. There is my orange wire. And then I've got this tag, and I never did this on my other Ford. It says to properly ground this alternator, attach a 10-gauge wire from this tab, which is up here on top, to the engine block frame or negative battery post. But all I can figure is maybe it's an isolated housing or insulated housing, because doesn't it seem like it would be grounded to the truck via its mount? But again, sometimes my understanding of electrical and how it works can be rather rudimentary. So it says to put a thing on it. Oh wow, I probably should have used the bigger crimp there. I thought on such a little fitting it wouldn't be a big deal. Okay, so let's get this one on. Just go ahead and put the deal in the crimpers here so we can hold on to it. Okay, so there's that. Okay, and that is a good solid crimp. Okay. Do I want to redo that? Oh, it'll be fine. I'm going to shrink tube it, so it'll be good. Okay, so we'll stick those up where we can reach them. I'm going to go over here, and I think I can do this kind of up in front here. Not that, you know, this is like a tutorial on how to strip a wire or something, but it's probably slightly more entertaining to watch when you can actually see what I'm talking about. Okay, why are you being dumb? You're brand new. Come on. Okay. I mean, they're new, but they're also not some high-end brand. I think they're, I don't remember what they are. I got them from Walmart. So, okay. So we are going to do red with a light blue stripe is going to become orange. Because I don't have a piece of red that's long enough. Alright, so we're gonna flip that in there. Get our crimp. Crack my knuckle apparently at the same time. Okay, put our shrink tubing on. And then go ahead and throw the other piece of shrink tubing on the ground. That's like rule number 1. This does work better with a small torch, but oh well. There's that. That's shrinking down on the wire good. Come on. Come on. Okay. So there's that piece. And I threw my shrink tubing on the floor down here somewhere. Okay. And this one's slightly longer. I don't have to reach out quite so far to get her. Okay, and then white is just going to continue as white. Did that even catch the wire? Huh? Okay. And then, of course, I forgot to put the shrink tube on it, so just go over the end. All right, and I can actually do this one out here instead of trying to hang over the motor. or engine if you want to fight about it. Okay, so I think we got a relatively good extension there. And I'm not necessarily going for final product here because we don't have everything, like not everything's all zip tied up and pretty yet. Most of it is loomed, but I'm not going to put this in 3/8 loom, and that's all I have. So I need to get me some more 1/4 inch stuff. So let's get this run kind of routed over here, kind of behind that. And then over here. Okay, so that's somewhat, yeah, okay, fine for now. All right, so where's our little cheat sheet paper? Here it is. Okay, so now we're to a point where we need to start hooking stuff up. So the pink needs to go to the I terminal, which I believe is that guy. Okay, and then there's another one that needs to go to the I terminal as well. So orange, which was red with light blue, goes to the I terminal. Okay, so I do want to get, sorry I'm sniveling. I try to kind of keep it in check, but I know I watched some of my videos back and I'm like, oh man, I sound like a walrus. Any of you guys do that make YouTube videos or TikToks or Instagram or anything? Like ever watch your own stuff just to see how weird you sound on camera? All right, so this guy can be, so I'm going to tug that back. Like, okay, so that's going to kind of go up-ish, like that. And then come around here. And then come to about here. So that's where I want to cut that and put my terminal on. I don't feel like my facial expression actually equaled how easy that was. I feel like my face said that that was really hard to cut. Okay, so we'll put that over there, and I'm never going to throw it away because I don't get rid of scrap pieces of wire because I don't know why. Okay. Huh. There's got to be an adjustment on these to where I can make the cutter dig in like sooner, because it's wanting to drag along the wire and then just kind of stretch out the, but it still works better than the other one that doesn't close at all. So all right, so now we need, can I use a blue one on that? I know you people that do electrical like regularly are like, it's called a whatever gauge, dum-dum, but I don't care. It's blue. Okay, so I think I can get away with that. That'll work good. And then we can, okay, so if it's going to go on like that, try to put it on to where it's not going to twist all weird on me. Because my buddy Kyle he's put a lot of work into this truck. He's done electrical for me on several other rigs, and he does really nice work. I have never been disappointed with what he's left me with. There's been a couple of times that we've we've hooked something up collectively, like together, and then, kind of looked back at our work and gone, oh, that wasn't right. But you know, that's how you learn. Okay. So we'll put shrink tube on. I'm glad that slipped over because I got to put it on before. Okay, so we'll put that on. And then I'm probably going to get flagged on YouTube for using dangerous incendiary devices. We'll see. Whatever. I marked that this video is not for, okay, I'm going to trip over this crate here. I marked the box that this video is not for children, so not that there's ever anything really super inappropriate in my videos, just some, from time to time, mildly inappropriate, suggestive humor. But what fun is life without mildly suggestive, inappropriate humor, right? Okay, and those were, I don't remember what size those were. Probably like 3/8 just seems awfully big. Huh? Apparently it's 3/8. Okay. Boy, one thing I can recommend to any of y'all that are, you know, doing whether you're doing restorations or, you know, you're going and picking them up out of a field, or you know, just kind of working on your own stuff on the side or whatever, is one of the best tool sets that I ever picked up has got to be, and I know it sounds weird, but it's got to be, it's a 1/4-inch drive. It's metric and standard, deep and shallow. It comes with a ratchet, the screwdriver you can put the socket on, a couple of extensions, and I swear I probably use this more than anything else in my box. I've gone out and gutted entire cabs with nothing more than that little tool set. So now what is that? Okay, that's headlight. I'm not even worried about that at the moment. I just want to get the ignition system hooked up. Okay, and of course I don't have a marker, but whatever. Okay, pink to I terminal. Purple wire to S terminal, which is already on. Red with light blue to pink. Okay, red with light blue is now orange. So we're going to use one of the little red terminals, provided I have one in the right. Ooh, those are all itty bitty. I might have some. I might have bought some that are in a pack over here. Oh, I believe I did. Look at there. Pico. Okay. So it doesn't matter how prepared I try to be. There's always something that I haven't grabbed, which I don't think is altogether unusual. Okay, and I have the memory of a tuna fish. So red, okay, which is now orange, goes to the pink. Okay. So we're going to leave a little bit of, it seems like a sufficient amount of slack. Okay, we're going to cut that. Get rid of that. The stripers. Okay, strip that back. Put my little piece of shrink tube on first. Not that it was, you know, wildly difficult to get over when I forgot to put it on. Okay, and then I'm going to get that in there. It's kind of neat going through my tools, especially now that my dad's passed, because like I know a lot of my tools came from him, but I've never really you know, I've never really paid much attention to like specifically what. Because by the time he gave me his toolbox, he was a diesel mechanic for years, so he had a whole bunch of tools, stuff that, I mean, I had to Google to figure out what it was because it was like specialty for, you know, clutch plate on whatever kind of transmission that, you know, regular light truck people have never heard of. But it's fun because, like a lot of them, he engraved his name on. So I'll be using a tool doing something sometime and come across that engraved name, and it's like Dad's working on it with me. So that's kind of cool. Okay, just fail safe. Okay, to pink. All right. So there is that. Oh, chicken nuggets. Definitely not what I said in my head. All right, so there's that. I'm not going to snug that up yet because I want to be able to like position those wires all just so before I... Okay, and then white, which stayed white, just brighter white, it goes to purple on the S terminal. And some of you that are watching this may be going, what in the hell are you doing? And frankly, I haven't got a clue. Like I said, this is a universal harness. So, well, I mean, I do have somewhat of a clue. This is a universal harness. So this does not say, you know, run this wire to the Durspark box and then all this stuff. So there's a couple of things that like would have been taken care of in the cab, typically, like through the ignition switch, that because it's a universal harness, we've had to run a couple of wires out here, which is fine. And I think it's going to work just fine. I don't think we've necessarily done anything wrong. And I think, I don't even remember. Like I said, I don't remember why I ordered a universal harness because, you know, for those of you that have ordered from American Auto Wire, you know that it's not a cheap investment. Very worthwhile, but not cheap. But like I said, I don't remember. I think it might have had something to do with this had more circuits on it or something like that, which I might have been able to get a factory harness that had more circuits. I don't know. Okay, more shrinkity tubing. Just cut off a little knob. All right, where'd my wire go? It's bright white. There it is. Okay, and I didn't put shrink tube on it yet, so we're just gonna run her down, and I want to get some of this is just some of the cheap stuff, likely from Harbor Freight, which works great for most stuff. My preference would be on something like this, not necessarily that's going to be a mud truck, but you know, something of this nature. My preference would be the kind with the adhesive in it that once you heat it up, it releases like an adhesive. Inside the shrink tubing. Okay, now I don't want these all wadded up on each other, so I'm going to have to hold them as I tighten them because I don't want the terminals to overlap and then get the crap bent out of them. Not that it would probably cause a huge amount of problem, but I need something to hyper focus on, and that seemed like the perfect brand of irrelevant for me to hyper focus on. Okay, and then that'll get all tied up there. Okay, that's so pretty. It's pink and purple, and it's just beautiful. Okay, don't torque them down to 700 pounds, dum dum. All right, so there's that. Now this guy, I believe, is my. I think this is somehow my ground from my coil. I'm not entirely sure how in the heck it ended up clear over here, but it is what it is. And for right now, you know what? I think this is not the finished product. So I think I'm just going to slap a terminal on it and tack it off right here to this additional battery ground to the body. Because right now, my main concern is I just want to make sure that we got the ignition system hooked up, and I'm not going to shrink tube this because it's just going to get cut off again. I want to make sure that we got the ignition system hooked up correctly. Okay, that's probably a 5/16, unless it's some goofy metric, but I doubt it. Okay. Oh, yeah, there we go. And ultimately, just to make it look a little cleaner, I might actually, because this wire comes across the firewall, I may just tag it off right up there on the firewall to one of those old screws. Just pull it out of the loom and tag it off right there, just to reduce the amount of unnecessary junk that's over here. All right, now do I have a blue one that will accommodate that screw? I believe I do. Actually, well, no, I have a limited amount of those, so I'm not gonna waste that. Okay. Oh, this is a weird looking one. Probably from one of those like Harbor Freight kits or something. So my father-in-law, for Christmas, my mother-in-law, we still do stockings. Everybody gets a stocking. And my mother-in-law and my father-in-law alternate whose year it is to do the stockings. And mother-in-law gets us some really cool stuff. But I will say that when my father-in-law has us, everybody gets like, the little multi-tool from Harbor Freight and a new pack of zip ties and duct tape and WD-40 and a little multi-pack of screws, electrical terminals, just all kinds of just the most obscure stuff that really isn't obscure at all. It's incredibly useful. So it's always interesting to see what the stockings are going to look like when he's in charge of them. Okay, so we're going to get that guy. Okay, and what gauge wire did it say to use? 10 gauge, which I believe is, what is this orange stuff laying on the ground here? This is, of course, that's not going to tell me what gauge it is because all it says is electric fan. I would think that would be fine, and I could probably just bring it right over there. I mean, I don't like running it over the fan, but it's not going to be permanent. In fact, does it just say grounded to the body? To properly ground this alternator, attach a 10 gauge wire from this tab to the engine block frame or negative battery post. Well then, heck, I'll just come right over here and do the same thing I did here then. I don't see a problem with that. I never remember what size wire is. That's 18. What size is 10 gauge? I don't even know. All right, I'm gonna pause you for a second so I can go find a piece of wire. All right, so I found me some 10 gauge. Found a piece of 8 gauge, which would probably be fine, but I don't know that I have any amount of terminals that are that large. Okay, how to the engine block frame or negative battery post? I guess I'll just run it to the negative battery post. I'll just run it over. I'll just run it over how I ran everything else. I mean, it seems kind of excessive, but whatever. Okay, this. Okay. I might as well just keep going. Put the red stuff over here. Okay. Too bad one of these isn't a blade connector. It's already got a blade on it. All right. So we're going to cut that off because that's of no use to us. Sound like Dad trimming his toenails. Now, will this do a larger one? Probably if I take it from a couple angles. There we go. Okay. Now, will these fit that? Ooh, that's going to be tight. But alas, it fits. So I'm going to file that under good enough for me and keep her moving. Okay, that's the slightly larger one, so I don't want to just completely pulverize it. And that isn't going to fit over that, so I need the slightly larger stuff. Okay. Put that on here, and I think I'm just going to route it long up there. I was concerned that I'd have to waste one of my expensive terminals, but these are just the kit ones, so I'm not too worried about having to cut it off at a later date and go a different route. Okay, this wind is not allowing me to. There we go. There we go. Okay. So that guy is going to go onto the back of the alternator here, which inevitably is a different size entirely. Nope. Here's my handy dandy ratchet holder. Watch me just drop this. I had to say that, didn't I? Okay. Where did I put the terminal? There it is. I don't remember doing this with my Ford. Well, not that this isn't a Ford. And I don't recall having any problems, but figure if it says it's supposed to be there, it's probably not without reason. Really don't want to run it all the way over there. I could flop it over so I don't risk bending the terminal. I guess it's not going to hurt anything. I feel like that's really kind of excessive, but I guess next time Kyle's out, he can critique my work. Of the two of us, he's definitely the electrier person. Ooh, am I going to have enough to do it that way? I mean, it's such a short run, but I don't want to just bomb it over the front of the motor. We just spent so much time making it look nice. I don't want to do something just all horrible looking. Get that all loomed up, zip tied off to the firewall. I've got some zip ties that have like you drill a hole and you push them in and you zip tie them down. They're pretty nice. Okay. So, with all these overlength wires in here, I just need to make sure nothing gets sucked into the fan. Been there, done that. That's not fun. On my other truck, I don't have it anymore. It was a 79 F-150 that had, I don't know where that thought process was going. It was a 79 F-150. What the heck? Was that what I just used? Oh, okay. The loop just looks so tiny because the rest of the terminal is so big. I had a wiring harness for a set of lights tied up behind the core support. Not as well as I thought I did. And it got sucked up in the fan. That was a mess. Okay, come on. I'm just gonna take that for what it's worth. I like it better when the two kind of come down more even, and I feel like it's a slightly better crimp, but on the same token, I don't have the type of crimpers that are actually intended to do that. I'm not going to waste the shrink tubing on this end because, like I said, it's just going to come off again. So, okay. And then that's going to go here. And then I still need to tighten up the where it is on the alternator. Yeah, that's all I can figure out is that the housing must be where the heck did it go? There it is. Like an insulated unit, because otherwise it just seems like its ground would come from where it's bolted to the truck. And it said that the block was a viable option. And to my knowledge, there's no like bushings or anything like in between where the all the bracketry attaches to the truck. Okay. I'm going to, all that stuff got tightened up. I'm going to take some battery terminal spray and just hit those connections. May or may not be necessary, but it makes me feel better. All right, now that I've got enough to last 14 years on there, moving on. Okay, this is probably a little bit too final work for where we're at currently, but I'm going to go ahead and put the, well, goodness, maybe I am. How in the heck does that guy go on? They're not like directional, are they? They don't appear to be. I mean, they were a certifiable turd and a half to get off. But now the silly things don't want to go back on. Whatever, we'll worry about that later. Okay. Not gonna get hung up on that. I would like to get them back on, but okay. I still need to tighten that up. Where is my ratchet? There it is. Okay, so that guy needs to tighten up. What's going on here? I had it on. There we go. Just didn't have enough resistance to ratchet. Okay. So there's that. That comes and grounds basically to the battery. Okay. So